Okay, this is part 2 on the repair of the Sears timer. The camera cut out at the end of the first one, so I'm just going to finish up here. Now, I will say that I have had some difficulty in getting this to start up reliably. I've tried lubricating it with 3-in-1 oil. I've tried cleaning it with this contact cleaner, and I have also tried graphite. And the spot that I have tried lubricating is the spindle where this spins around on. And because this is an electric motor, I have found in the past that if there's too much wear on the spindle and there's too much play, that it may not rotate properly because it gets hung up in some position with respect to the field that the axis having a very low tolerance and being right in the center is good because it allows the starting torque to be symmetrical. But anyway, having said that, none of these lubricants work better than nothing at all. So having tried them all, I ended up cleaning it all off. And once this has been going for a while, then it seems to be fine. Now here I'm just having trouble making the electrical connection. But what I'm trying to simulate here is turning it on and turning it off. Okay, and one thing that you'll notice in doing this type of thing is that this device will actually spin in either direction. And that's a characteristic of an electric motor. Usually there is some thing that causes it to spin in one particular direction over the other. But the simplest structure will spin in either direction. It just depends on how it gets started. Now, on this particular one, you'll notice is that by putting this in here to block it, I can actually get it to go in the other direction. It's as if it bounces off the object and then starts going the other way. Sometimes I've even noticed that it will start up and going in one direction, and then for a brief period of time it will then end up going in another direction. Now here's an example where I have power applied and it's not going at all, so this one seems to be stuck. Now I just gave it a tap and it's going, so it's not bad. Now what I'll do is I'll add the other gear. The other gear has this piece of metal, and what that metal does is it makes it go in a particular direction, and I'll show you how that works. Okay, I need this to go counterclockwise, and if you look down there you'll see that the piece of metal is in such a position that if it were to start going in the other direction, it hits that piece of metal and then reverses itself. Okay, now that I have it propped up here, it's a little bit harder to turn this on and off. Okay, but it seems like it's quite possible. So you'll notice right then it did start in one direction and then it reversed itself. Now, another thing about this is that when it's plugged in, it's going to be in this orientation, which is actually upside down, but that's just the way my outlets happen to be in terms of the polarized plug requires it only to go in one way. Now, when this device was made, possibly the plugs in the house, at least that I grew up in, wasn't polarized. You could fit something in either way. Nowadays, you have to put it in only one way. It ends in upside down, but it does seem to be working now. So what I'm going to do is now simply reassemble it, which is to say I'm going to take this top piece and I'm simply going to put it down in position and then put those little tabs so that it stays in position. Okay, I did manage after some wrangling to snap that back on. I did have to, deform these 4 outer pins just enough to get it so that with pressure it would snap in place. Now you can tell I've got it running. and you can see that gear is moving. So you can tell if it's running even after the top is on. Okay, you can't tell by looking at the front because it turns too slow. You can tell by listening to it if it's totally enclosed. The microphone might be able to pick up on that. Tick, 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 tick. Okay, now I'll simply put the back on. Okay. Now, I didn't take a good enough photo when I first took this apart, but in order to get this cover back on, this red wire has to be right over snug up against the top of this, otherwise there's an interference. Okay. Now, I did take a photo, but by then I had already moved stuff around, undone some screws. This wire must have been out of position. I thought that it was going to go someplace else, but this is the only way it can work. Okay, I managed to get the top back on. Now you can hear it ticking. So it looks like it works. If it were to stop, it would simply be a matter of taking the back off, popping open the cover, and trying to fiddle with it, I guess, or give it a knock or a tap. So that's how not to fix a timer.